This is the real spiritual journey. No fluff, no bypassing, pure honesty. This world is a total clusterfuck. Every Sunday, we're going to embrace the cluster and attempt to unfuck it. And we attempt to unfuck it not to perfect the world, but to better understand who we are and what the truth is. When we can sit back, observe, discuss, and analyze this giant clusterfuck, perhaps we can better understand ourselves and come up with simple solutions. Visit the website at theclusterfuck.com for links to all of the streaming and podcast platforms and social media. Now let's get ready to unfuck the cluster. All right, everybody. I thought for a second my voice was going to fail, but here it is. I'm talking. Welcome to the clusterfuck. And of course, there is so much cluster out there this week. I don't know if we're going to be able to uncluster it today. Of course, a lot of chaotic things are going on. A lot of chaotic things are going on, and namely Iran. But I'm not going to cover Iran today. Maybe midweek I might do impromptu. So I'll always be here on Sundays. I've been able to schedule everything around that. And if I do have to do an impromptu, it'll probably be on a Wednesday evening, something like 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern, which makes that 5 or 6 my time, maybe 4 or 5 Pacific. If I do, I'm not touching Iran right now because I'm gonna wait for some things to play out. I mean, I've got my opinions, I've got a video I'd like to review on it, but I'm gonna wait for some things to play out. I'm not surprised by any of it. I'm gonna be really honest with you, I'm not surprised one bit, but we can parse it out because there's a whole bunch of different narratives going on with that, and I'd like to take some moments to parse it out because everything that's happening in Iran with the Ayatollah and all that stuff, you're like, oh, it's so horrible, it's a regime, and people, point to when, things collapsed there. But America and Israel had a lot to play in that, so we've got to go. Let's see how this plays out and how the cards play out because this is like religious crazy people battle, kind of strange stuff. So we're not gonna touch that on here, although to acknowledge that it's happening on this show right today on Sunday, we're gonna do a little Jim Jones update. We're gonna talk a little quickly about Jim Carrey. Then we're gonna get into our little vampire king, Charles. We wanna talk about him. Then we're gonna have an intermission, and then we're going to talk about the war on the sun. But the Middle East is complex, and it's not just good versus bad, bad Islams, good West. It's far from that. That's why we're not going to get into that one. I can see you guys talking about it, and you're kind of freaked out. But they've been wanting to do this for a long time, and it has. I'll leave it at it has nothing to do with democracy for them. They'll use that as the cover, but they don't give a shit about democracy. So before we get into the updates, we got Gabrielle in the room, John, Connor, Kirby, Jonaside's here, Dorothy. I'm sure Incognito will be here soon. Like a bunch of you are streaming in. I really appreciate you. Don't forget to do the thumbs up on the show. It helps it the faster you do it, and keep watching, the better the views get. It's good stuff. But the update from last week's show on Jim Jones is there were some people in comments kind of asking me like, well, when did you think? When did you think Jim Jones, like, was he co-opted? And I'm sure he was. And because the CIA is heavily involved in religion. So the update, and I had put it under the post tabs on the YouTube channel. Because this is the YouTube channel is where I'm basically communicating a lot of stuff. We are live, of course, on Substack, Twitch, Kick, and Facebook right now. So the Facebook page is live. But the update was because Jim Jones, we know he was born in Crete, Indiana, what I found out. And then I heard Candace reiterate this. So I knew it was probably pretty solid, is that Indiana was a hub for MK Ultra, and specifically in experimenting on people in the universities, maybe even medical centers there with psychedelics. So you can bet it was early on in Indiana that Jim Jones was approached or infiltrated, because we know he went to communist meetings and we know he was a pastor of sorts. Those two things alone would make him a valuable asset for the CIA at the time. So definitely 100% he was co-opted, and it was early on. It wasn't when he was in San Francisco. And that's the update. That's some more information on Jim Jones. Now, for all of you that have been something not so serious, maybe creepy. I bet you guys have all been watching the Jim Carrey stuff. People talking about Jim Carrey's appearance at an awards show and how bizarre. It didn't look like him. And now, of course, it could just be a case of Jim Carrey had some surgery, but there's some weird stuff. Like he had appeared, I don't know, maybe about a month before looking like Jim Carrey. And so it's like, and then a month later, like, did he have it injected? Like, what happened? We're gonna look at some videos. I've got Ryder Lee's video. He's been a guest on my show before. Ryder is awesome. Raised by Giants is his show. He's got a great channel. And let's not forget the documentaries that Ryder has out that are absolutely fantastic. But we're gonna look at his video on it, and he's going to show something really interesting, and we're a couple of videos, have a little discussion, and then we'll get into Charlie Boy. And I don't mean Charlie Kirk, I mean King Charles III. Oh, hello. So here we go. What is going on here? I think I have to refresh that page. Which one? So yeah, and if you're new here, let's refresh this page because it's not showing the saved items that it's supposed to. Oh, you know why? It's because I'm signed in to the wrong account. Haha, here we go. I have my account that I share stuff with my husband, and then I have my more podcasty account. I was signed into my I've got things all over the place. Charles III, yeah. Did I say the second? I'm tired. I've been working all morning, guys. Sorry. It's Charles the second was the Restoration King. Charles I was his father, who was beheaded. And Charles III is the one we have right now. Big lineup. We're not going to discuss the lineage. Well, we are going to discuss the lineage a little bit, but here we go. So let's look first at this one about Jim Carrey, and then we'll get into Ryder's theory. Ryder's theory is interesting. I don't know if it's true, but let's see what people are saying about Jim Carrey's bizarre behavior. I think if we can get the volume working.
Jim Carrey has been cloned. So there's a conspiracy theory online at the moment that Jim Carrey has been cloned, and this is his clone or a stunt double. And I looked into it because I wanted to disprove it, and I just thought that maybe Jim Carrey got a bit of plastic surgery or something's going on. I have no idea. The more I looked into it, the weirder it got, because this is Jim Carrey not long ago at the awards show. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, he does look different, but it's not like he looks different straight away. But then I noticed he went on the Colbert show just recently, 9 days prior to him showing up with long hair. Like, this is him 9 days prior to that show in France. Your hair cannot grow that quickly. What's going on?
Focus here.
So there's a conspiracy theory online at the moment.
So It's very bizarre. It feels like we're in some weird timeline. They're playing with things are going kabuki. Jim Carrey shows up with long hair, looking like he's had surgery, or he's a totally different person. Like, I don't if you had surgery, I don't know why you'd make your nose look different like that. It's very bizarre. I absolutely agree. It's completely strange. And we're going to look at one more video that says in memory of Jim Carrey. And then we're going to look at what Ryder's saying, because what Ryder's saying is really interesting. So I want you to consider it. In memory.
Secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it. For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. You know, and they get out there in the woods in a circle and they decide these things, and, you know, and look at him trying to cover it up.
Once Jim Carrey reached the pinnacle of fame and fortune.
So some people are saying, hey, look, really weird that he was saying that. And it kind of looks like he was, you know, sort of trying to poke fun at it. But then he was saying all sorts of weird things. Like, he was talking out against the system. He's been saying some bizarre things for quite a while. And so it's really, I don't want to play this whole 3-minute video because I want to get into what Ryder Lee says. And it just seems there's something wrong. It's like when we were watching Joe Biden showing up and you were like, that's not Joe Biden. And it looked like a man in a rubber mask. In fact, there were different heights. Like, things were just too different. And then you're like, why Jim Carrey? Like, why the hell would they do that? But it's almost like there's like some kind of weird timeline merging, strange thing. And after I show you this last video, I'm going to tell you a story somebody told me about the internet a long time ago where they seen a video. In fact, that somebody was my husband, and he told me this years ago when I first knew him. And we'll get to that weird cloning video that my husband told me about. But first, let's look at Ryder Lee's concept of what's happening. He shows you some interesting stuff. I like Ryder. Go subscribe to Ryder's channel.
Not Jim Carrey. People are saying that this is not Jim Carrey. They may be right. His face is now completely different. His eyes has even changed color. How is that even possible? Well, when I watched this footage, I was reminded of another person. Do you guys remember the show The Whitest Kids You Know? It was mostly a conspiratorial sketch comedy show that aired on Comedy Central from 2007 until 2011. They actually predicted the war with Iran.
We wouldn't happen to be invading Iran today, would we? You got me.
Right around the time everyone was saying Jim Carrey was losing his mind for saying things like this.
Do you believe in icons? I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe that you exist. But there is a wonderful fragrance in the air.
Now, Trevor Moore from The Whitest Kids You Know and Jim Carrey in the mid-2000s, basically doing the same type of comedy content, looks almost identical to each other. The Jim Carrey here and Trevor Moore here. And even shared the same mannerisms as Jim Carrey in a lot of his sketches. I mean, come on, tell me that's not Jim Carrey. People are saying.
So I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've never seen that show. I don't know who that kid is, but there's some. He's weird. And in that kid's sketch show, and this was, I don't know, years ago. He's like, hey, talking about invading Iran, and then just when Iran happens, we have Jim Carrey showing up, looking all bizarre. Do I have a picture of it? I didn't upload a picture of him, but just go look at this side by side, and it's really strange. Indeed, strange indeed. Let's see what. Yeah, someone said that Jim Carrey got away with it because people thought he was joking. And I think they do that. They're like, that's a form. They tell you that they tell you what they're doing, and then they cover it up. So that could be a form of them telling you what's going on, admitting to it. So their gods say whatever they do is okay, but then presenting it as a joke so we don't think it's real, but yet they've told us, so it makes it okay. Like that is it's bizarre, it's strange, is writer's explanation of it doesn't even get to the point like why? Like what's the point? Or what is it? What's the point in doing all this stuff? Did Jim Carrey just go get some strange plastic surgery? Like literally 9 days before, he was looking totally different. You wouldn't get that kind of surgery in 9 days. Is he wearing a wig? It doesn't look like he's wearing a wig. So that's why people think there's like multiples. And so now let's forward to that story. I believe, hopefully I don't butcher it because it was a while ago. And my husband has said this multiple times. I'm pretty sure it's my husband. My memory has lots of stuff in it. So sometimes I mix things up. But in the wee years of the internet, being wee and little and Yahoo sites, I don't even know if YouTube was up yet. There was this video that was on the internet, and I think my husband's friend showed it to him. And in the video, there was all these bodies like laying in, I don't know, on gurneys or on tables in a lab in a building somewhere, and all these bodies were of celebrities, and there were duplicates. And one of the bodies that was laying there was Donald Trump. There was multiples, from what I understand, from what I remember, and it was like there were clones of celebrities. Like, almost like some of these people aren't even real anymore. And you hear people say, "Look, there's people, like, this NPC concept is not fake." And I don't wanna freak you out, and I know people are gonna be like, "You're crazy, Melissa, like, that's nuts." But this video was wiped, like, you can't find it anymore. I have no idea what happened to the site, I have no idea what happened to it, it was there, and you can't find it anymore, but it was videos. And this is before it wasn't an AI video, it was an actual video. So, there was no AI, there was none of this kind of technology, it was a video of celebrities. If any of you remember, I don't know, maybe in the early 2000s to 2010, somewhere in there, seeing a video like that, let me know, but back it up like, "Hey, I saw that too." I didn't see the video, my husband saw it, and he's like, "No, there were multiples, and one of the clones was Donald Trump." And there's this myth out there that Donald Trump's a time traveler, that there's 2 Donald Trumps. There's a red tie Donald Trump and a blue tie Donald Trump. And we know for sure that they had a double playing Joe Biden many of the times. He just looked weird. It didn't look like Biden's. The ears were mismatched. The height was wrong. There was just really strange things happening with Biden. So do they do it to actors? And then what is the purpose? Why would they clone or have a double of Jim Carrey to come out behaving weird? This unlike, it wasn't just his looks, it was his behavior was like Jim Carrey, sedated and made to be docile and like, "Hey, I'm accepting this word," where before he seemed to be a lot more challenging. And then when you look at Ryder's video and he's tying it into that kid doing that kind of conspiracy theory spoof show talking about Iran and they look similar. It's like, did they take them and merge them and said, "Hey, we're going to make this new Jim Carrey"? Like what is our real reality and what the clusterfuck is going on? It's very strange and I keep hearing this over and over again and I wanted to bring it up because it's just it makes you feel crazy, but it leaves you with a weird feeling like you're like, and I don't even trust half the stuff that these people say. I don't trust any of the reasons anymore because they're just full of shit. So you guys tell me what you think and how bizarre the Jim Carrey thing is. Because I find it a little bit disturbing. But then again, maybe there's some kind of week-long retreat you can go grow your freaking hair and get Botox and fillers and tralala. And he's looking weird because he's still healing. But it would be like, why? What's going on with these people that then again they want to rearrange their face like this? when that totally ruins Jim Carrey in his comedy if it doesn't look like him anymore. We're gonna have to keep watching Jim Carrey to see if he shifts and he changes and he looks more like his old self, or suddenly he's like, I had those things removed, or keep an eye on him and other actors because there's some strange stuff. There's some weird experimentation, and MK Ultra is all throughout actors in Hollywood and all of that stuff. It's bizarre beyond belief. Yeah, hair could be wig or extensions. It could be. It very well could be, but the question is why? I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of interactive art thing that he's doing, but why? And he has gotten a little weird before. Jim Carrey is a little bizarre, and it would be interesting to know his history and see really dig into the youth of Jim Carrey. Yeah, really strange stuff. So watch the actors out there, because I think you're gonna find that you're gonna start noticing these weird glitches with actors before. Someone commented, SMS, thanks for stopping by. They said, Mary Poppins has penguins too in the song and dance sequence for Jolly Holiday. Has anybody seen the spoof movie trailer about Mary Poppins called Scary Mary? I haven't. And then he goes on to say, my brother just said that he saw that video in 2011 on his way home from Iraq deployment. He said it was on MySpace. Interesting. Well, it's gone now. Ben Fulford says, keep Ben Fulford keeps saying that the current DJT, Donald J. Trump, is fake, and whoever his informants are say they don't know what happened to the real Donald J. Trump. Well, before they were saying there's two Trumps. And the Jim Carrey virality is strengthening the egregore of the mass. Actors commonly get possessed through the Stanislav method. Well, maybe we're going to have to go into possessed actors one Sunday. But that's all we got to say about Jim. We're going to go on and talk about our wonderful king. And our wonderful King Charles, he'll tie into the sun stuff too. So it's going to merge. So we'll talk about Charles for a little bit. We're going to take a little break. Everyone can get up and go to the bathroom after we talk about Charles. And then we'll come back and talk about the sunshine and why they want to get rid of it. So now, Andrew, as of course you guys all know, was arrested, could face jail, could face the rest, all this tragic stuff. And I know I told you guys last time that I really do think that this is them throwing an elite under the bus so they can kind of move on. And most of the population will think, oh, now we have been justified. And that is not it. This is cantankerous. And so when he was arrested, Prince Charles, or King Charles, sorry that I keep calling him Prince Charles, King Charles III was at a fashion show, and everyone's like, look at him. They're ogling over him and trying to put this press performance of King Charles as he's this poor brother who has to deal with all this stuff. And he's just being his cool self at a fashion show. He never did nothing wrong. We could do an entire episode talking about the suspicious death of Princess Diana. That's not for today. What we are going to talk about is King Charles, our little vampire king, pretending to be innocent when he's long been involved with nefarious characters that were PDF files, traffickers, and necrophiliacs, and how that goes right into his family and the links and stuff like that. And of course, we wouldn't be doing any kind of justice if we didn't talk about how much King Charles loves to mention that he is a descendant of Vlad the Impaler. So let's pop this up for a minute so you can kind of see a visual. It's a little blur. It's the best one. It's the easiest one that I can pop up. But you see over here on the left in the blue, you see Radu, Mercia, and it goes down into Vlad Dracula the First. There is Vlad Dracula the Third. He didn't have any descendants, but one of his brothers or something did. That goes down here to this Charlotte. I'll pop up the list. It's hard to see their names, and it's through her. She marries in the House of Württemberg, and the House of Württemberg through Mary of Teck marries King George V, and that is how King George V is what the grandfather of Queen Elizabeth, and that is the line that King Charles has lineage to Vlad the Impaler. So when you think all these royals are gone and they got rid of them and they're not around anymore, it's not true. They're still here. And here it is. That's the quick line. And this kind of shows you the names. So yeah, you've got this is sort of a list of the names. And a lot of these links on today's show is in the description in the YouTube channel. You'll see a whole bunch of links. I don't have all of them, but you can always follow up and look at stuff. But this is the list of how he's linked through. This is the line of people that he is linked to Vlad the Impaler. So it makes it all more special that we should know that they house pedophiles, child murderers, and traffickers in their inner circle. And Jeffrey Epstein was just one of these people that did this. And of course, we know Jimmy Saville was another. And Jimmy Saville spent decades and decades in Charles' inner circle. And we're going to go through some videos where they babble on about, oh, they're all victims. But come on now. Come on now. Are these powerful kings and queens really, really that much of a victims? I don't think so. I don't think so. So first of all, we're gonna be kind to King Charles right now. We're gonna go have a look because he has property, and I believe a cottage. He has property in Romania tied to his great lineage. This one's for later. We're not going to watch that video right now. We're going to pop this video up and just take a look at
We have got to the point where literally any
this lovely cottage that King Charles has.
This is the first look at the current.
Here we go. In the telegraph.co.uk. Transylvania.
We are here in the heart of Transylvania, in a tiny little village called Zolan Patak in Hungarian and Valea Zelanului in Romanian. It has been founded something like 400 years ago and has just 150 inhabitants.
He's a
here
count.
in the foothills of the Carpathian Mountains.
Kalnoki.
The Prince of Wales usually comes once a year for a week. When the Prince is not here, then of course the place is open for guests, and we're open all year long. Every season is wonderful. So right now we have the fantastic flower meadows. In winter we have heavy snow, and we have snowshoes. You can go and track wild animals. In the autumn you have the incredible foliage in yellow, in red and green and brown. So you have wonderful colors in the forest. So every season is very special out here.
I'm going to bet that people who are guests of this cottage and village of King Charles are not people like you and me. I'm going to guess that they're probably pretty high up. I don't think he's just renting it out on, as a B&B on whatchamacallit. I have a feeling some pretty prestigious people are going to be the only ones who are allowed to rent this property out. Just a hint, just a suspicion on that one there.
Yeah. The house we are here now was built for the overseer, for the administrator of the village. It is also very simple, very basic, yet it's perhaps a bit more prominent than the others because it's on the hill, and it really oversees the village, so you can see the whole village from here. Well, the village itself was founded in the 1600s by the family as a glass manufacturer, because it was in the middle of these vast forests. And in order to use the timber, the family decided to found this glass manufacturer. and we imported craftsmen from Bavaria, from Bohemia, and they settled. And since then, we have this.
So, whenever King Charles wants to get away and be a little more humble, he goes over to Romania for a week and escapes from us plebers, or from his plebs that, I mean, let's be honest, they're the biggest welfare. They're they're the biggest welfare state going. I'm being kind there, presenting a very calm version of King Charles's house. There is footage of him there talking from Romania in a biography, but we're going to look at a video that gives you a better, deeper idea of what the royals really are, because they always pretend like they are this wonderful expression of culture in England. But this video is actually going to tell you how they really behave, what they actually do. They say all these other governments are tyrannical, but yet they deal with them, and they talk with these tyrannical rulers. What is the purpose? And you'll see that you know I think it's fair to say that there's many tyrants in the world, and they just put on different masks. And in the West, our tyrants try to pretend they're democratic. So let's check this video out here. It's a
Drinking
good
tiny
one. I like
coffees
it.
and chain smoking and whispering in French. And look at us, we're just this bunch of bumbling peasants who are still sucking up to this family of inbred morons. There is an argument put by people who are apologists for this thuggish clan who squat above us, taking all our money and land, who say that the Windsors are a sign, an emblem of order and of continuity. And they're not wrong, but not in the way that they think. What they represent is a continuity of inequality, of poverty, of unfairness, of unaccountable power, who pays no tax, but at the same time, they're always framed in terms of service, like they actually do anything except turn up for public events and cut ribbons. Not in terms of what they take, which is vast. They claw out of society with their grubby fat fingers, Charles. That is the real face of royal leadership, that they're just
Yeah, Charles needs to do something about those fingers. They're looking a little too sausagey. I don't know what that means. I think it actually denotes something medical, which you think they deal with. But yeah, his hands look not a lot swollen.
tax dodgers at the end of the day, just like all these other big businesses and institutions. As a former soldier and the nation's favourite disgrace to Queen and country, a traitor to the crown, it's always interested me, this relationship between the army and the monarchy. In my book, I talked about waltzing, people who pretend to be soldiers, who wear medals they're not entitled to wear uniforms they're not entitled to wear. Those people get a lot of ire from the veterans community, and correctly so, arguably, but there are no bigger Walter Mitties than the royal family, who are the heads of various regiments and rock up in their uniforms, chat shit to the squaddies like they're getting in touch with the common man, never having served in those regiments for the most part. And it's this kind of advanced case of military cosplay. It's always kind of bothered me that these people who are the heads of regiments and the heads of the military itself are basically a bunch of kind of LARPers. One of the royal family's many jobs is kind of as the marketing wing for various armies.
I thought that was really good. We'll pause it here for a second, because you're going to get into the real devious stuff that the royal family does, including King Charles and probably Elizabeth. But it's funny that he calls them LARPers. They're LARPing. They're dressing up in costume. A king hasn't been to battle probably since after King Richard III in was it the Battle of Bosworth? Correct me if I'm wrong, but he got a sword up his butt and the Tudors took over. And after that, the Tudors were like, nah, we're good. We ain't going to fight more. It's a vulnerability. So this guy's going to tell you in about a few seconds, the real devious. They're not only LARPers and they pretend to be of military service. They dress up just to manipulate people. The branding that Queen Elizabeth has done is pretty immaculate. It's pretty clever. He's going to tell you what the real devious stuff they do behind the scenes is.
Are basically a bunch of kind of LARPers. One of the royal family's many jobs is kind of as the marketing wing for various arms firms, for your BAEs and your Lockheeds and your Raytheons, and you see them cutting around, sometimes in military uniform, sometimes in local dress, this weird hedonistic cosplay. Don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but they're really into like going around, hanging out with dictators, putting on like Arab headscarves and Arab dress, for example, snuggling up to these people. But underpinning that, they're trying to flog weapons, flog missiles, flog all kinds of arms equipment to these countries, and that has long been their role. That's the case for Charles, it's also the case for Andrew. The true nature of monarchy is kind of concealed in a way which in those countries it isn't. It's raw power and absolutely dictatorial, whereas in Britain we have this kind of veil, this idea of a constitutional monarchy with some limits, and they can't do the things that they would perhaps they used to be able to do, or perhaps would want to, because we know some of these people are pretty unhinged. But it's interesting when you look at the parallels. Our green-fingered, well-branded king is actually best pals with some of the most brutal, authoritarian, tyrannical monarchs in the world.
All right. So that's the deviousness of the royal family. They're like this really clever marketing wing that basically is dealing in arms to these tyrants in other countries, and probably making sure that these countries are all under the central banking system, which is another element of this war in Iran. They are literally selling weapons of mass destruction and then accusing other countries of having weapons of mass destruction. It's a kind of psychopathy that's really special, and the West has seemed to got it down as a pattern. So King Charles, wonderful King Charles, not only has he kept a pedophile in his inner wings for decades and decades, he's an arms dealer. He's up there, wearing the Arab stuff, but he's a weapon. He's the mask. He shows up, and Elizabeth probably did the same thing, and Andrew, all of them they are doing foreign diplomacy and all this stuff, but it's like they're dealing. And this is what Andrew's in trouble for, is they're saying he probably shared high class information in his dealings with Epstein that he wasn't supposed to. So that's what they're stating. But this tells you that these people in the royal family, they're not just an emblem, of culture of the past. They are participating in this global stuff, in this war, in the World Economic Forum. King Charles is huge on climate change stuff and the climate change countdown. They are not just your random representing goodness. They are literally participating in the arms dealing and all of the stuff that makes the West, this power. Screw democracy. That's just insane. It's insane. Now, a lot of people are going to say, we're going to look at this video here.
Drinking tiny coffees and chain smoking and whiskey.
No, we're not going to. We already looked at you. We're going to look at this video, and you can hear, when you see the BBC, they're going to lie. They're going to cover a certain amount, and we're going to see them kind of be very sympathetic. This one right here. They get on my nerves because they're so pathetic. And then we're going to show you a video of John Lydon talking about Jimmy Saville and his infiltration. And since we know that King Charles was in with them, and it's through, I think, Mountbatten. So someone related to his father, one of the relatives, was a total pedophile. And that's who brought Jimmy Saville into this. Okay, but let's take a look at this lady, and we'll see how sad and pathetic she is. And see what she has to say about this, because it's not your she's going to talk about the relationship with Jimmy Saville, and she's going to talk about it as if Charles is a victim of Jimmy Saville. Poor Charlie. Poor little vampire Charlie. He just didn't know. He's got M16 or MI6, sorry. He's got all these police informants, background checks at his disposal, and he just didn't know that Jimmy Saville was a weirdo.
In the knowledge of everything he did, it makes it even harder. But you've uncovered the relationship that Jimmy Saville had with the royal family, particularly with Prince Charles. Tell us about it.
Well, as part the reason we were looking at this is we were trying to explain how Jimmy Saville got away with his crimes, and as part of that we were looking at a huge amount of archive footage of him on television over a period of 50 years. And as part of that, of talking to people, we came across the letters between him and Prince Charles, which helped give us an understanding of the nature of the friendship that they had, which I don't really think we fully understood before. And I suppose what was most interesting and why we've included those in the film, which looks really broadly at many reasons why, you know, Jimmy Savile wasn't apprehended before he died, is that the relationship was one where Prince Charles trusted and respected Jimmy Savile, and I think that's really interesting, because I think what we were trying to do is look honestly at the British public's relationship with Jimmy Savile in order to try and explain how he got away with it. And I think there's been a temptation to sort of say after the revelations, oh well, you know, I always knew, I always hated him, I always hated the man. That seems to be the common answer we got when we phone people up. And I think that's unhelpful, because I don't think the archive material or footage bore that out.
Okay. Number one, chick needs to clear up her herpes. Number two, she's saying the archive stuff doesn't bore that out. And I say this to everyone, silly British bitch. Do you honestly think that everything's in an archive letter? Do you honestly think they're going to give you letters incriminating themselves, and they're going to put in the archives trafficking and PDF files? Did you like, this is how dumb these people are and brainwashed to worship royals. That she's like, it's not in the archives, darling. It's not in the archives. It's right here. These letters we have, it tells you their whole relationship. He's a victim. And people will say that. Other people will say he's a victim. I believe I've got another one. We can go look at it. I've got another one that talks about him as a victim. I don't know. And there's just, I'm sorry, there's just, there just really is no way that this man is a victim. Where did it go? I don't know. But there is no way that this man is a victim. When you think about it, unless they're completely incompetent, there's no way he would have inner access. Yeah, and Dorothy says Mountbatten was Charles III's uncle. That's right. Family related. It was Mountbatten who brought in Jimmy Savile into that circle. And Mountbatten's a PDF file. Known. Everybody knows it. Everyone knows that. In fact, we're going to look at a video right now of John Lydon, commonly known as Johnny Rotten, as the Sex Pistols. It was known in the BBC. It was known everywhere. So if everybody else really knew this and knew this about Mountbatten, do you think Charles didn't know? There are all these rich people now on Epstein are like, we're the victims. We didn't know. Come on. So you're either totally incompetent and stupid, or you're lying in your depraved pig. And I'm guessing it's the latter. But we're going to look at this video of John Lydon, and he's going to tell you. There's a recording he did at the time in the 70s, an interview with BBC, and he says his suspicions. He talks about Jimmy Savile. And in this clip, they're interviewing him in modern times, and they play back his clip from the BBC interview. But the BBC, all of these people knew. And that's my point. All of them knew. So let's listen to John Lydon interview.
Here, an unbroadcast section of a BBC radio interview you did in 1978 recently came to light, included on a pill album. And you were talking about making a film where you kill famous people. Now, it's never been played on television before, but it has a particular relevance. Let's listen to this.
So who else is on the goner list?
Oh, it's endless, believe me. I just want to make a film of it. On film, I'd like to kill Jimmy Savile. I think he's a hypocrite.
Weren't I right?
I bet he's into all kinds of seediness that we all know about, but we're not allowed to talk about. I know some rumours. I bet none of this will be allowed out.
I shouldn't imagine libelous stuff will be out of that.
Nothing else.
And he was right. None of it was allowed out. And the BBC knew, everybody covered up for Jimmy Savile. And they won't even get into a lot of the politicians. There was this big fat guy named Cecil, and I can never remember. He was into politics in Britain. He was one and rumored to be a child, like unaliver and sexual deviant and pedophile. Ted Heath, the Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, knew all of this. They all knew. If they knew, the royal family knew. And just like every other dysfunctional vampire fucking elite family, they're going to cover. They're going to cover. And they're going to be like, we're victims. Bullshit. Keep listening.
Nothing I said is liable.
Sounds a bit harsh, the death list there.
Well, but actually,
sometimes you're contentious in life just because you're bored of that.
But put aside the rhetoric you were using. The fact that in 1978, at the height of the Sex Pistols explosion, there you are saying about Jimmy Savile, he was into all kinds of seediness that we all knew about. We weren't allowed to talk about it. I know some rumours. So you had heard the kind of thing that we now know about him, or stuff like that?
Yeah. I think most kids did too. Most kids wanted to go to the top of the pops, but we all knew what that cigar muncher was up to. But I'm very, very bitter that the likes of Savile and the rest of them were allowed to continue.
Did you ever try and do anything about Savile?
I did my bit. I said what I had to.
Did they air that? No. It just got suppressed.
Yeah.
For legal reasons.
Yeah. And
did you meet?
I found myself being banned from BBC Radio there for quite a while for my contentious behaviour.
Because of that?
But they wouldn't state this directly. There'd be other excuses.
I mean, it's shocking.
Oh, yeah.
He got away with it for another 30-odd years.
Well, not only him, but a whole bunch of them.
Whole bunch
and these
of
are the
them.
purveyors of good taste, huh?
You were too offensive.
Brilliant, innit? Well, I'm still here, and the rest of them, what are still alive, nice bit of jail time for them. Jail time!
I have to read this. The BBC has said it's appalled by Savile's crimes, and that the Dame Janet Smith Review is considering the culture.
Okay, they're appalled by it. They covered it up and perpetrated it and allowed him to have access to children. He hid, like all vampires, he hid under a guise of good deeds, goodwill, charity. He volunteered as a porter in the hospital so he could have access to cadavers and dead bodies in the morgue to do you know what. That's how disgusting of a human being he was. There is a documentary on Netflix about him, and they don't even cover the worst. There are people who have been interviewed who are saying there wasn't just PDF files. He was like Epstein. He was providing a trafficking channel to elites and royals and prime ministers and people of power to access to children who were possibly in orphanages, didn't have homes, were impoverished, were coming to the TV shows. He was using this to funnel these children to these elite people, and it wasn't just sexual. Sometimes these children were tortured and unalived. 100% in many cases. Sue me for libel, go whatever, but this is the case, and it's many. And you know, Ted Heath was actually said that he was spotted in some weird, this is an allegation that he was spotted in somewhere. He's dead now, so it doesn't matter. I think he's dead, yeah. That they were in a woods and they were just walking by, and they went and were in the forest, and they seen these people do a ritual, and then he turned into some kind of lizard. Am I saying that's real? I don't know that that's real, but it's sure as a hell a really good metaphor for them. We're going to look at another video, because this idea that these royals, do you believe these people are innocent? Do you believe the man who is the King of England didn't know?
Field here, an unbroadcast section.
didn't have access to information. Do you believe that you would let someone in your inner circle as a royal family without them being extensively background checked, extensively vetted? You wouldn't. So maybe these elites, maybe they vet for this. Maybe they're like, hey, if they're a PDF file and they're corrupt and they want to sell arms and they're psychopaths, that's who we want in our inner circle. And apparently they were so close. King Charles used this disgusting Jimmy Savile. Go look up videos of him. He's gross and creepy. I'd never heard of him before until this started breaking out like over 10 years ago. He's creepy. He used Jimmy Savile to help when his marriage with Diana was going bad. Why would you use this creepy disc jockey TV show guy to help with your it's weird. How it's weirder than Rasputin. It's whoo-wee. Okay. So we have another one where they're talking about the fact that people might be trying to play this to get him to abdicate, to get him off the throne. So this is a long video. We're going to just go through a little bit of it. We'll see what she has to say, but it says royal scandals deepen. The king, the prince, and the PDF file. So let's see what they have to say.
By these latest revelations, and he explains to us why the controversy surrounding Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Jeffrey Epstein means King Charles will soon need to abdicate, with his position untenable. Andrew Lowney will also go into details about the growing evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was actually a Russian agent, and also the new evidence that is set to be released very shortly.
Let's pause it right there. So this is propaganda. There's no way in hell Jeffrey Epstein was a Russian agent. This is Israeli propaganda. They want to get this sent off. Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad. Everyone knows that. Repeat after me. Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad asset. Asset, not acid, asset. The idea, and he even says it. He says he's for the Rothschild. He says it in those documentations. King Charles is brought up in the Epstein files. His name appears. Epstein wanted nothing more than to have this interaction with not only Andrew, but he wanted to get up to the Queen. And there's pictures of him in Jizz-Face Lane with the Queen. And now people really think that Epstein's still alive and that woman in the prison is not Jizz-Face. It's some other woman. Doesn't even look like her. The same thing. They're doing all these tricks, and it's convoluted because they can just say, well, they had plastic surgery, they did this, they got fillers, blah, 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 blah. It's confusing and everything doesn't look what it is. And so I always go back to that video. That video of these clone bodies. I'm like, do they clone them? Do they have multiples? Are these people even real? And then there's this idea, do they put their spirits in younger bodies before they die? Are they doing weird rituals like that? Who fucking knows? That's how crazy this stuff is. There's no way Epstein was a Russian asset. Not even close.
That casts serious doubt on exactly what happened to Jeffrey Epstein in jail and whether he really did kill himself. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us. You wrote a very explosive biography that was released last year entitled, where you did extensive investigations into Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and his ex-wife Fergie. Are you surprised by what has developed over the past couple of months?
Yes, I am surprised. I mean, one writes his book.
I love how they put their books in there. You got to wonder if they choose the books so you can see the titles. The Fate of the Romanovs. There's one that says Mountbatten in the background. Buckingham, Babylon. That's appropriate. Buckingham, Babylon. Winston in the Windsors. I think they're like, hey, okay, let's that's their background. They want you to see certain titles. It's just interesting.
In the hope that they can shift the dial and loosen the earth. But I didn't expect that, for example, that we would get the Epstein files released, which are dynamite, and has clearly been a huge tipping point in terms of bringing a lot of these people to justice. So it is very gratifying. It's gratifying to see that my research has been confirmed by what's been released, and exciting that these people will now be held to accountable, I hope.
Do you believe this is the tip of the iceberg? We've started to see the fallout, and we know the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and also the former ambassador to the US from the UK. Do you think this is the tip of the iceberg?
Your job.
Oh boy. It's not only a tip of the iceberg. I'm going to tell you what this is. This is the narrative they want you to follow. They want you to think they got Andrew, he's bad, it's okay, we cleaned it up, King Charles is okay, but if they have to, they'll get him to abdicate, and William is sparkling. And they want you to follow this narrative that goes, and it's Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia. Because they want war with Russia. They're doing war with Iran. That's what they're doing right now. These people, I mean, how many subscribers do they have?
It's going to disappear. And so are
Let's
your
skip
friends'
this commercial. How many subscribers does this channel have? I'm gonna pause it because we just want to look at this. They've only got 5.74 thousand subscribers, but this video had 301,000 views. Interesting. So I'm not sure at what level, but they're insinuating that Charles could have to abdicate. I don't know that it will come to that, but it certainly is staying. And the fact is that King Charles, whether they want to admit it or not, covered, hosted, invited, close correspondence with a massive, massive PDF file, the likes of Epstein, and was probably funneling children in for royal elites and the politicians in England and maybe other places as well. And so I think it's part of the culture. I think it's accepted. I think it's normalized because I think there's a lot of crazy dark ritual stuff that's going on here. Queen Elizabeth did some pretty clever branding for the monarchy for the 20th century and into the 21st century. And now that she's gone, the idea is obviously she can't protect people, but the branding that Charles has got out there, he's kind of relying on how his mother did things. Queen Elizabeth purposely made it so that the public would not view the monarchy as a threat to power, that they were just to basically go out and present themselves at events for a cultural thing. She wanted you not to view, and she probably worked with a whole bunch of other people to do this. She certainly didn't do it on her own wits. She wanted you to view the monarchy as like this cultural icon, this, historical heritage, rather than what I just showed you is behind the scenes. There's pedophilia, child trafficking, maybe even ritual sacrifice, murder, and there is arms dealings. 100%, they're dealing arms with all these other countries and making it look like, hey, we're doing this for democracy, don't you know? It's very clever and crafty branding. So for those of you who think she's just some, nimble old lady, the branding that she did was to say, okay, well, we're not really in power like the kings of the past. We're just a representation of our culture. That's why we go and cut ribbons and go to these events. But that's the show for you in the front. What happens behind the scenes, they're not going to put that in the archive. So these silly, herpes-ridden, silly women babbling, saying, it's not in the archives, darling. You know what? A lot of things aren't in the archives. MK Ultra records aren't in the archives because they destroyed them and they burned them. COVID stuff's not going to be in the archives because they've destroyed and burned them. Do you think these people don't know what a bonfire, a paper shredder, or a delete button is? I mean, it gets ridiculous when I have to literally listen to these silly women show up making the most ridiculous claims, and then people actually believe it. They believe this stuff. They believe that their monarch could do no wrong. And they have to. They have to believe because their identity is wrapped up. They don't have self-sufficiency or sovereignty. Their whole identity is wrapped up in this is our king. They've been taught it from cradle to grave. That's what they're going to go for. And you go on the streets in England, you'll get some people who don't like the monarchy. But trust me, you'll get people who get outraged. How dare you make that claim? They will lose their shish. Just like people will lose it if you criticize Donald Trump and call you a Democrat. Even though you should be criticizing all these people in power. They absolutely will. So what's the whole purpose of this? Like, why would they release these files? Why this is vulnerable because King Charles, all that stuff's going to come up. I hear people talking about how he was in. They're trying to steer the narrative away from Charles being in with Jimmy Savile, but he was. Did he partake? Did he have people? I have no idea. I haven't seen anything pointing to that, but there's definitely no way they didn't know. And I don't know that King Charles did, because, he tends to be into old haggy looking women like Camilla. But I'm sure there's other people. If Mountbatten, his uncle, was a PDF file and introduced him to Jimmy Savile, that means there's other people. That means that it was an accepted thing. They probably all knew it about him, and it was very well accepted in the royal family and in other families. Who knows how far this extended? Who knows? Maybe Epstein knew Jimmy Savile. We'll never probably fully know, and they're never going to release documents that say it. And what they've released so far in the Epstein files is child play. And even if we had all the files from Epstein, I doubt we're going to see every kind of twisted ritual these people do. They have the royal family has the rituals they show you, and then they have the weird rituals they do behind the scenes for their little Molochian gods or whatever you want to say. So our little vampire king isn't so innocent. He's not this dandy little Englishman, even though he's a vegetarian. That could just be a cover. But here's another thing about symbols, okay? And rituals, and I'm going to end it on talking about the symbols and stuff that happens before these arrests gets made, which tell me there's an occult element to it. And occultism, let's be honest, it just means hidden. You could use it for good or bad. These people use it in a creepy negative way. But they love symbols, they love numbers, they love dates, they love to match them up because they believe they give them more power. So I'm going to show you something, and you've probably already seen it. And then we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about the sun. Here comes the sun, or maybe it doesn't come. But check this out. We'll pop this up. You've probably seen this going around social media, but it says exactly 666 days after this blood-soaked royal cavalry horse broke free during an exercise, Prince Andrew was arrested by 6 cops on his 66th birthday. 6666666. Are they playing a game? I don't think so. I think numbers are important, and 666 is, a lot of people will say it's the Antichrist, it's signifying something, but it's a sacrifice. It's just interesting that they chose this blood-soaked horse as an emblem. Is that representative? Is that a sacrifice? Does it mean, is this a bloodletting? What are they doing here with this symbolism? You go look all over the place. You will see World Economic Forum. They have a bunch of 6s in their logo. And remember when we did a show a while back when it was still, it wasn't called the clusterfuck here. And we talked about how vibration makes shapes. And that's what they use to do a lot of these seals and logos, vibration. And if they want to do something and keep the public in a certain vibration where they can control you, they have all sorts of weird sounds that they do in rituals, and they make logos out of that. You can watch videos of sand being manipulated by sound. It's very interesting. And we're going to get, after the break, we're going to get into videos of David Icke talking about that. We're going to get into the sun worship, and it will tie back to royal families. All these families do black cube Saturn worship, whether they know it or not. We're going to get into that stuff. But King Charles is no innocent man. He is no angel. And we already know that Mummy's angel, Prince Andrew, is now in prison. Or he's out of prison. He was arrested. I knew they weren't going to keep him in there. Will he go to jail forever for the rest of his life? I doubt it. It would be nice, though. If they really want to be traditional, I would be totally excited if they stuck him in the Tower of London for a little bit. Bread and water. I mean, that's nothing compared to the people. They tortured, and there's a lot more information coming out about Andrew and his sadistic, twisted ways. I'm not going to mention every single one of those things from the Epstein file, but I can tell you for sure: child torture, murder, trafficking, pedophile, all that kind of stuff was happening under Jimmy Savile. And there is no way that the royal family and that institution did not hear anything about it. There's no way King Charles, then the Prince of Wales, would not have been informed about this very nefarious guy who, go look him up, he'll creep you out. So we're going to take a little break. For those of you listening on the audio podcast, you might want to forward it 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll be right back. We're going to be talking about the War on the Suns by the elites. And it should be interesting. Remember, don't forget to give it a thumbs up while you're waiting for me to come back. I'm just going to let the dogs out. I'm going to have a little break, and take a gander, move your feet, stretch, and come back to the clusterfuck in about, 7 minutes or so. All right, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Got a little down tempo music there. The dogs, thank you guys for your patience. They got to go for a little break. I got to go for a little break, and hopefully you guys are all back to tune in. Oh, we lost a few viewers. Unfortunate, because we're going to be talking about the sunshine. And before we get into that, I kind of want to go over that, you know, the pyramid with the all-seeing eye and the Illuminati stuff. Really should take a look at that a lot, because it really explains exactly how our societies are formulated and figured out and configured. It's a hierarchy, but it's not a good one. And we keep repeating it over and over and over and over again. This idea that there is these elite up top with an all-seeing eye that watches you wherever you go. Palantir, all that stuff, all that crazy stuff is out there. Let's see who we got. Yeah, Margaret Thatcher lobbied for Jimmy Saville for knighthood. Absolutely. His pedophile uncle stages places for him to meet up with Camilla. Yeah, I mean, they're all just so dysfunctional. And you know, Prince King Charles' father, Prince Philip, was a douchebag. Remember that douchebag said if he died and there was such thing as reincarnation, if he came back, he would come back as a virus that would kill all of humanity and all the worthless plebs. Literally, maybe not those exact words. He might have called us useless plebs, but he said he'd come back as a deadly virus to kill us all. I'm shitting you not. That's what this psychopath says. He's a real piece of work too, and he had other women. Don't think he was just faithful to Queenie forever. He had women, and she just accepted it as part of what it was. They are the ultimate dysfunctional family. This is what you do when you're super dysfunctional, and it's all about arms dealings, PDF files, and satanic rituals, and it doesn't matter. You just keep that stuff going. You keep that stuff going. But that whole idea is that our system runs on that little pyramid with the all-seeing eye. And that's how people are trained from the time we are born to the time we are dead. Maybe they even try to harvest us after death. We are trained in this way to see the universe in that way. And that's why it gets structured that way, because everybody believes that. The queen, they're powerful. They're not just powerful, they're the physical representation of God on this planet. That's what people believed. Now they are, to this point where they have so much technology, all these elite people, they really are pushing that they are godlike and they want to live forever. And on the YouTube page itself, I believe I put, let's go into this thing, poll time. Let's go on to the channel. And there, see that? The all-seeing eye has seen enough. I don't think it's seen enough. I think it'll keep spying on us. But they said they never die. They transfer their consciousness to younger bodies. And if they don't already do that, I wonder if that's an ultimate goal. Or they create these weird, I don't know, like the Jim Carrey thing, or like that guy. And I think my husband, if he's listening now, he might have missed the part. We had someone actually come in here and confirm your story, Mike. The story about seeing the celebrity clones on that video, and Trump was one of the clone bodies. Someone came in my audience and confirmed in 2010 that as well, their brother said they saw the video in 2011. Right here, I'll just pop it up. Painter for hire. My brother just said that he saw that video in 2011 on his way home from Iraq deployment. He said it was on MySpace. Yeah. So somebody else has seen that video. So it's not crazy. Could it be concocted? Sure. I doubt it was AI because, that technology just wasn't there. But yeah, people are saying that video went around and now it's nowhere to be seen. No, I don't know where it is. If you guys see it, send me a link or send me a recording. Of course, the email is melissadharris77@gmail.com. Let me know. I want to see it because I've never seen it. I had no idea that that was out. No clue. So what is it about the sun? Everyone's going on about global warming, and now we have this idea that technocrats want to kind of deal with that pesky sun. It's just getting in the way. It's warming things up. They want to block it out. The sun is just getting in the way, you guys. And you know that even in the ancient times, the sun was worshipped as like the ultimate source of life, and it really is. We're going to get into some really interesting stuff here. We're going to talk about this, cover some articles talking about this, trying to cover up the sun. We're going to introduce this concept called complex dusty plasma. I'm going to tell you what it is, and then tell you some of the elites' plans, talk about the Saturn moon matrix, black cube worship, and then Bill Gates and all of these elites' plans and what's carrying out and what their agenda might be. And of course, feel free to put forth an agenda yourself. It's weird why you would want to block out the sun unless you are a vampire and it's just a nuisance to you. I don't know if that's the reason, but indeed they are trying to block out the sun. And we're going to take a look. I mean, this is being reported. Oh, I forgot to show you just before getting to there is this link there from Daily Mail talking about Prince ignoring alarm bells about Jimmy Saville. I don't think he just ignored them as like, oh, it doesn't exist. I think he knew exactly what was going on, and it's their heritage. It's their heritage to use us as fodder. It's their heritage to use us as fodder and treat us like they're toy things where they can sacrifice, harm, hurt, spray chemicals on us, whatever they want with their little plans. So in this article, it says, Bill Gates, our wonderful Bill Gates, he don't think that he's not linked up to some kind of elite little model there, because he really is. Hatches a horribly stupid plan to block out the sun, just like Mr. Burns. So, the Simpsons creator is in the Epstein files too, right? And so is Bill Gates. So interesting. Maybe he was inspired for many of his episodes. Because you know how they say, oh, the Simpsons predicted that, the Simpsons did that. So the Microsoft founder and billionaire philanthropist Bill Gates is reportedly funding research into geoengineering technologies to try and cool down the planet by reflecting the sun back into space. And they're also, of course, we know they're spraying chemicals in the air to manipulate weather and block certain things. They're already doing that. The experiment is called the Stratospheric Control Perturbation Experiment, and it will spray special calcium dust into the sky because we don't have enough shit sprayed into the sky. And I bet you it will cause cancer too, in order to reflect sunlight back into space. The solar geoengineering project has been called dangerous and horribly stupid, but could be a last resort to save the world if humanity doesn't successfully stop climate change. I'm going to tell you, I think there's something very nefarious going on here that has nothing to do with climate change. Climate change is just their made up bullshit that they are using to get this on. In fact, there's probably a lot of natural reasons why the planet is warming up. Gates, who recently argued that everyone should eat lab-grown beef and stop using Bitcoin, probably, I don't know, is reported he wants us to use their global currency, but I thought Epstein made Bitcoin. They use Bitcoin for child trafficking. I know that. It's reportedly very interested in dimming the sun to reduce or delay the impact of global warming around the world. Or maybe he's a vampire. Maybe the sun, maybe he weakens in the sun. Maybe his power, it'll be full throttle if he can just damper that sun. But I'm going to show you a bunch of other things that shows how nefarious thinking this guy is, and how when kept unchecked, it leads to psychotic shit. In fact, most of the stuff we're experiencing with the environment and different problems is probably because of the military industrial complex and all the means of production that they do that's contaminating things. And, you know, I don't know, I could go on forever about that one. The ScopeX project will kick off in June by launching weather balloons 12 miles into the sky to test whether the sun blocking dust will be feasible. However, this geoengineering test could be very risky and nobody knows what will happen. We're just going to be a guinea pig experiment here. So if you want to be Bill Gates guinea pig, you know, it's happening. Some scientists have suggested that the dust could help replenish the ozone layer. They don't know. They just think it could. I thought it was healing itself. These people are crazy. Critically, the sun wouldn't actually be blocked. Instead, the dust would scatter and reflect the sunlight. This has happened in the past when volcanoes have erupted. Yeah, but mass volcano eruptions is not good for crops and growing. It can be a big problem too. Just saying. Blocking out the sun has been an inspiration of some rather terrifying sci-fi dystopias. In The Matrix, Morpheus talks about how humanity scorched the sky to try and stop killer robots. In Netflix series, the entire Snowpiercer, the entire world lives on a gigantic train because humanity accidentally froze the entire planet by blocking the sun. Wow, see, these guys love science fiction and they love doing everything. In season 6 of The Simpsons, Mr. Burns creates a sun blocker device to force Springfield to live in perpetual twilight to use his nuclear energy. Well, that actually sounds more like something they're going to do, because we're going to get to that. Mr. Burns, it did not end well for Mr. Burns. He got shot by a baby and was found passed out on a broken sundial. Okay, so that is interesting. And it's almost like these people are like, hey, you know what? Write this into the Simpsons, because this is one of the plans we want to do. Like, we want to have people depend on us for their source of energy, not the sun. That's how psychotic these people are. That's the level. That is literally the level of it. And I'm going to introduce you to something called dusty plasma theory. There was a recent interview that Tucker did. You can go check it out. I put it as a link. And it's mentioned, this book by Robert Temple is mentioned, where he talks about dusty plasma and what he thinks most of the universe is made up of. So some people might call it dark matter, but he calls it plasma. And now it's not like the plasma in your blood. It's something very different, but it is kind of like that, where it's all throughout the universe. Everything's made up of it. So we're going to look at this. He's going to give us a really good description of this type of plasma, and you'll come to realize that everything's plasma. The sun, everything's made up of it. And this seems to be like the thing that connects everything in the universe, almost like the force. Almost like the force. And we're going to have a look at what that is. Let's hear their description. I'm going to put this back to the beginning. Let's hear the description of dusty complex plasma.
Plasma is totally underestimated. It is not just the fourth state of matter that we are taught in schools. It is, in fact, a living, sentient, intelligent entity that predated humanity and may even have been responsible for creating it. Yes, you heard me right. Not only are those little glowing plasma orbs in the skies funny to look at, mischievous, morphological, intriguing, able to replicate, to reproduce, to bomb downwards at what seems like hypersonic speeds, and then giggle and laugh at you in their own little way, but they have so much energy and so much intelligence, they literally can have created you, which also means they can change your mind in ways that you could never imagine.
Obviously, this is a difficult message for many people to take. But if you want to know more about it and have it explained in a way that brings together spirituality and science, life and consciousness itself, I highly recommend this book, A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple. You can get it on Amazon. I don't know about the TikTok shop, but it's certainly worth a read. And if you're on X, I'm reading it out in live spaces, which are recorded, and you can listen to them at any time.
I have a theory here. Because these plasma are supposed to be this kind of building block of everything. It's the sun, it's in us, it's all throughout things, it's all throughout the universe, it's connective. They just said it could kind of change your mind. I'm listening to this book. I have it on audiobook. It is on Spotify, so you can access it there. I have this idea, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, that these technocrats, in order, because they're so controlling and they're so devious with war and all the things that the crazy things that they do, they are trying to replicate a lot of this. They are blocking this out. So if the sun's made of plasma, everything's plasma. We rely on the sun heavily for vitamin D to grow things. Everything here comes from the sun. And they want to block it out. There's something going on with the plasma stuff that they are trying to replicate. They want to control it. They want to mimic the organic world of, you could call it God, you could the creator, the source of the universe, and they kind of are making this synthetic version of everything. And so they kind of lead us away from the organic version of plasma and into a synthetic version. And I thought, is that really crazy? Like, is there some kind of synthetic plasma that they want to lure us to, and they're blocking the sun out so they can lure us to their synthetic way and make us dependent on it so that we're trapped? And lo and behold, I found out that Bill Gates is trying to build an artificial sun. I'm not shitting you. And remember, the sun, our real sun, we don't have to pay for it. We can just doesn't, there we go. We can, the sun is a sun. We have access to it all the time. Are they trying to slowly block us from the sun and steer us towards this and their nuclear centers, their data centers? I mean, this gets pretty crazy. We'll go into the dark cube worship. That could be another alternate thing that they worship. But Bill Gates is building an artificial sun to power the world. Type 1 energy, which has developed an alternative to the tokamak magnetic confinement systems typically used in nuclear fusion, submitted an initial licensing application for a fusion facility in Clinton, Tennessee. I don't know if I think that's AI. I don't know if that's what it really looks like, but it says, here's what you'll learn when you read this story. Okay, anyways. On the morning of June 28th, twin smokestacks of the Bull Run fossil plant in Claxton, Tennessee crumbled to the ground after 61 years of service. However, this wasn't just another emblem of dying energy industry. It represented the birth of an exciting new chapter. On January 29th, 2026, not too long ago, Bill Gates-backed Type 1 Energy submitted the initial licensing application to prepare for construction of a futuristic power plant, a twisted take on magnetic confinement fusion. Name Infinity One, this reactor is what's called stellarator, which contains plasma, much like a donut-shaped tokamak. Plasma. Okay, guys? These guys are trying to take over the sun. That's what all this global warming shit is about. He wants to take over the sun. I'm telling you. It uses a twisted complex array of magnetic coils to crank up plasma temperatures towards 100 million degrees Celsius. And then they're like, hey, we have global warming. But they want to do 100 million degrees Celsius fake sun in the middle of Tennessee. Expert believes that stellarators should avoid many of the stability issues that plague tokamak designs, but their construction can be devilishly complex. Type 1 Energy initially announced its selection of the Bull Run fossil plant as the location. And I'm sure they didn't have anything to do with shutting it down. Okay, here we go. We've been working closely together since 2024, sharing relevant design information and knowledge that is essential to establish the appropriate licensing conditions for a fusion power plant. Oh boy. It says, according to the company, the site will encompass the Infinity One prototype reactor, a workforce training center, and the future 350 MW Infinity 2 fusion power plant, spread out over several phases. It'll, once commissioned, they want to start it up by 2029. Oh, that's like just right around 2030. That's one of their goals, is to control everybody by 2030. That's why they're rushing. It says selecting brown sites, previously developed and now unused sites, such as Bull Run fossil plant, is an example of a growing trend to repurpose energy. Of course, securing a so this is on. This is something, they're calling it the sun, but it's a type of energy, an artificial sun, a nuclear fusion. It's totally new, totally unknown. Yeah. I'm not even sure where this goes. I'm not even sure what level this is, but I have a suspicion that a lot of this spraying and a lot of this stuff that they're doing is to, one, make us dependent on their sun and block more and more our sun out. And they could do that, like there's ways to blot the sun out so crops fail, and then we have to rely on them totally. Can't even grow our own food. And we have to rely on their energy. I also think that there is this element that if the world does end, they can just hide underground and have their little nuclear fusion sun thing. If they blow everyone up with nuclear weapons, I don't know. But something very strange is going on here with the sun. And Bill Gates is only one of many elites and technocrats who seem to want to control everything, even the sun, and how we perceive it, how we interact with it, and block its life-giving nutrients. You need the sun for vitamin D. The vitamin D pills just aren't the same thing. And so then there poses another thing, another concept in the elites with this Saturn worship we're going to get into. I suggest you kind of look up plasma, because it might be the explanation. And if they're experimenting with plasma as well, it might be why you see all these orbs, and all these UFOs and all these strange phenomena, that it might be plasma, this concept. And if you get into the book and you read the book, it's very spiritual. It's like this spiritual element, like almost like the Force in Star Wars, that connects everything, and we can get information from it and communicate. It can affect our behavior. So this would be very valuable for them to create something like this, to control everyone, to control the sun. This would be ultimate power. Of course, they can't control the whole entire universe. It's absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible. So they also have data centers everywhere. They're putting data centers everywhere. And that will be also part of the control system, where they use these data centers with Palantir to control everything. So that gets into the whole idea of the black cube worship and the Saturn moon matrix. David Icke was one of the first people to okay, he wasn't the first. Is one of the ones who made it really popular. I believe Jordan Maxwell talked about this. There's a lot of other people who talked about this. You can see this in Stanley Kubrick's The Space Odyssey 2001. You see the obelisk, the black cube thing, which could be a cell phone. It's almost like scrying. It's almost like Palantir. It's like you're looking into something and seeing. It could be the movie theater shape. It could be Mecca, the black cube, you see it there, but there's this black cube worship, and you see it in Space Odyssey where it's on the moon, and then it's in reference to Saturn. That's the mission that they're making. But there's this thing with Saturn, we've talked about it before, that the is it the hexagon shape on the top of Saturn? If you lay it in a certain way, it makes a black cube. And all these religions that we have inadvertently are worshiping the black cube on Saturn, and that Saturn used to be like a dwarf sun, like not a real sun, like a dwarf star or something like that, that people used to, it was brighter, it was a sun at some point, and that people are worshiping that. It's like Cronus, the in Greek mythology, devouring the children. It's really, there's a lot of darkness to it. And that a lot of these elites are worshiping that. And you can see it throughout all of religions throughout the world, this black cube. Watch all those people like little brainwashed sheep walk around Mecca in Islam. We worship Mecca screen, the black screen. A lot of people say that obelisk shape in Space Odyssey 2001 is the mobile phone. Like, people all have a different reference for it. But there's no doubt that you see black cube worship throughout most of these religions. And we are gonna go do a little Ike and have a look at what he says and why they worship. And is this tied into sun? Because this is the dark sun. They want to block out the source of all life, worship the dark sun, and then at the same time they create a synthetic form that they control. And maybe that's where they get all their like information and their devious stuff, and like demons come through, because it's said that they use this kind of vibration to as a portal to bring things in. David Icke also says that the moon's not real. It's a fake kind of thing, but that's for something else. We're going to go have a look-ski at David Icke. I tried to upload this in my system, but it was too long, so we're going to have to go right to YouTube and see what he says. We're going to share this one because we'll go right to the I have everything saved in a list that I know to go to. There's Jordan Maxwell right there. Jordan Maxwell's an interesting guy. He's passed away, but he's an interesting guy. And we want to go look at David Icke explaining Saturn and the black cube worship. And it's linked to the moon. And interestingly enough, one of Elon Musk has now switched from not wanting to do Mars to
There's one
life on the
major
moon.
difference between a talk that gets
Doing life on the moon. It's an interesting switch, but it ties into a lot of this because the moon, Saturn, black cube worship, the elites. This is the oppositional to the sun god. And remember, all of history, everyone knows the sun is king. And all these elites always want you to think that they are the representation of that on Earth when they're not. So let's check this video out.
This whole Saturn thing.
Okay, we'll make it bigger. Let's listen to Jake Shields interview David Icke on the black
Very
cube.
fascinating. My producer's been talking about it for a while, but I didn't quite understand it. You know, I lived in New York for a while. I lived right next to a giant black cube there. You know, then I looked up black cubes. There was a good amount of them. Almost all of them were commissioned, or the artists were done of. I'm sure you could already guess what religion and faith these people were building these black cubes, but it's really fascinating, like this Saturn worship that appears to be going on for a long time. I mean, maybe another time we get a more in-depth, spend like an hour or two on this topic, because it's such a but wouldn't mind like touching upon it today because it's such an interesting topic with like the hexagram.
Well, I could touch on it in this way. Why do these people, this cult, why do they put their symbols all over the place? And why do so many of them represent Saturn? That's one point. But there are other symbols that represent other things. Now, what do they represent? They represent frequency. They represent frequencies, and frequencies impact upon perception. So, if you look at something called cymatics,
So that's kind of sorry, my camera's going blurry. That's kind of a fancy way of saying mind control. Frequencies can help them control your perception of things. So that's why this kind of black cube worship is probably very important. But let's let him expand.
matics. You can see examples of it on the internet in a video on a video platform. Cymatics is this: you get a liquid medium, whatever it may be, or you get grains of sand or grains of something, and you put them on a metal plate. I came across this back in the early 1990s. One of my earliest videos was about this. And then you play a sound frequency across the liquid medium or across the plate. And what you see before your eyes are symbols that form from the grains, or from in the water, the medium, whatever it is. They form a symbol, and the symbol is created by the sound frequency. They then change the sound frequency, and the symbol changes. Now, when I was writing one of my earlier books and researching this deeply, I came across this video of cymatics. And basically what it was a liquid medium, and the sound was constantly changing. Boom, 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 all the way through, different sounds, changing very fast. And I saw between my eye, with my own eyes, not necessarily between them, I saw a Star of David, a hexagram, and I saw a hexagon. Purely created and perfect, by the way. I reproduced pictures of them in the roadmap, of those symbols, and they were created purely by the sound at that particular time that was making them, was forming them. And so when we look at a symbol, we're not.
This is how they kind of do the power. This is how they choose a lot of these really ancient symbols and sigils. They actually use vibration. They just don't do it randomly. This is why I tell people not to wear their logos, because you're actually pulling yourself into their vibration and into their rituals, whatever it is that they want. When you wear their stuff and you participate in their events and you give them money, you're participating in that vibration. And Lord knows, with all these devious politicians and twisted black occultism, what exactly is where they're vibrating. I mean, you have to get a sense for that.
Seeing what it's giving off, because the frequency creates the symbol, and the symbol by its very nature generates the frequency. So when you look at the hexagram, that's where the name Rothschild comes from. They used to have a Star of David on their home in Frankfurt, Germany, and they changed their name from Bauer, a Middle Ages occult family, to Rothschild, which was red shield in German, or red sign, and it related to the Star of David on their house. And now you see.
I'm just gonna apologize for Jake's breathing. He's breathing heavy in there. He's like super breathing heavy into the interview with Ike. I've got another video about Ike a long time ago talking about the moon and Saturn. We'll play that next. But Bauer is interesting to know that that was the name before Rothschild, and that it was an absolutely strategic change of name. And he's telling you the meaning behind this. So Bauer, Bauer, was their original family name. So if you want to know even more history about them, research that name before the change and see what kind of dark stuff they were up to. Because I think they were involved in many different regime changes long before they became the Rothschilds. I suspect that they had their fingers in different places. Let's keep going.
It on the flag of Israel. And funnily enough, when I've talked to these Satanists around the world, or former Satanists, and people who took part against their will, they have described to me, this is long ago now, how during the major rituals, they put a Star of David on the floor, like the symbol of the Star of David, and through the center part of it appears these non-human entities. Because what part of the another part of the ritual is to thin out the difference, the frequency difference between the astral dimension, the lower levels of it, where these clowns are, and the human frequency range, and it basically creates a conduit through which they can pass. Apparently, they can't stay in this reality.
So they literally do a frequency through this shape, this sort of shape that's on Saturn, that he's saying basically it's like a portal that they can come through if they do the right frequency. That's why chanting, hymns, all that stuff is involved in religion. And I'm sure they have secret little chants that they do in their secret ritual. That's why they do that stuff. It pulls a certain vibration, and in their perspective, whether it's true or not, whether you believe it, they believe it. Remember, this King David probably wasn't even a real person. Old Testament is King David propaganda made up of all these stories, and you can find these stories in much older, societies long before Judaism. And remember, the New Testament is a Roman Empire propaganda from Constantinople. It's all like there's so much stuff in these books that there's just no proof these people even existed, including King David as a monarch, anyways, as some kind of superpower at the time.
Very long, but it's through this symbol that they're doing it, that they can bring them in. And so why Saturn? Well, why did the Romans have the festival of Saturnalia? Why was Saturn one of the great gods of Rome?
And if you like Christmas and Santa Claus, this part's really gonna make you sad, because all the celebrations we do with Christmas, some of it's pagan, but some of it's linked back to Saturnalia, and Saturnalia in the Roman times is linked to Saturn and black cube worship. So I don't want to depress you, but that's coming up.
And you look at the so-called planet Saturn, which I say is actually a dwarf star, but and you look at the rings, and in my books over the years, we could go into this in detail in another time, but there was a guy who was into this whole high technological area, and he started looking. His whole career was in high tech and what have you. And he started looking at the pictures coming back from the Voyager spacecraft of Saturn, and then the Cassini craft that went later and was eventually crashed after a long, long time into Saturn. And he was looking at the rings of Saturn. And he was seeing them changing from one picture to another. I mean, like in minutes.
Minutes, right? Yeah.
He also identified sort of craft that he called electromagnetic vehicles that were actually forming the rings. And when you expand it out and out and out.
Okay, so I don't know if you realize what he just said. He's saying that there was spotted electromagnetic vehicle crafts that created the rings around Saturn. He's saying there's beings in this universe we don't know about, that they're probably, they want us to know UFOs or whatever in a very close way, that the rings aren't natural. He says that about the moon. The moon's not natural either. And I'm going to show you that video where we talk about that. It's actually the last video that I uploaded in my system, where he talks about this, and he talks about Saturnalia and all that stuff, because he's saying the way, and I don't doubt this, that what they explain the universe is and what's really out there and what people are perceiving is two different things, that there are other entities doing stuff. It's like we're in a giant organic body, and we're being told it's just dead when it's literally filled with life and plasma and connectivity and access through knowledge that you wouldn't have access to normally, and they're being told, no, it's just dead, it's all material. That's where we want you focused. But they know that that's not true. So let's listen to David Icke even
with
go
far
into
greater
further.
power and thus influence on our reality. And if you put that there, it kind of gives an indication of what I'm saying. Now, talked about that Charney project and what came out from it. Long after I've been talking like this about the moon and its influence on our reality, this article came out, and in part of what was said in it, it talked about the moon. They said this entity that they connected through a computer system with said the moon is not a natural heavenly body. Life was better for humans before the moon came. Moon forces control time and manipulate the mood of humans. The moon is there to control the Earth's mood, emotion, and a big calm would come over the Earth without the moon. There would be only little...
So he's saying that the moon, historically, and lots of tribal places believe this, lots of tribal societies believe this, that it wasn't there and then it's there, that it's fake and it's used as another control mechanism, just like a power plant, just like a fake sun, just like that they're trying to put Neuralink, Starlink, all these data centers all around, that the moon is this sort of ancient control center. Because that's what he's telling you.
Only little storms, not big storms. The old race, Archons, captured the moon from space and located it next to the Earth. That is said to have happened by many, many ancient cultures. People and animals without the moon would become calm and peaceful, and anxiety and fear would dramatically decline. The oceans would be much calmer, heavy thunderstorms and lightning would be rare, and the climate would be balanced with no extreme heat or cold. Telepathic interdimensional communication would become widespread, and people would be able to see new colors, higher frequencies in an enhanced color spectrum. And that fits with the fact that this frequency, this matrix, is suppressing human expansion of awareness, keeping us in the box. There would be major changes. This really left field, this one. There would be major changes to the human respiratory system as blood and breathing chemistry changed. Those born after the moon's demise would be able to hold their breath underwater for hours at a time.
So, and then you can check this video. He goes into the Saturn moon matrix, which he just talked about in the next video. But he's literally telling you that a lot of these devices are control devices. They are why we are unable to control our own thoughts. He's basically saying that the moon and all these things are fake, and they're used as control systems. And it's interesting that I was talking about to you early that Elon Musk is now really focused on the moon, and we see this in movies. Go look at Space Odyssey 2001. It's right there. Moon, Saturn, Matrix, black cube worship, frequencies, controlling minds, controlling behaviors, bringing certain other energies into certain portals. And the idea is that these elites have this idea on how to do this. And that one of the reasons why they're blocking out the sun has to do with this. Now, it could just really be that Bill Gates is like, no, it's too warm and I want to control it and block out the sun. But it's a crazy thing to do that and then create all these nuclear power centers, and one that he wants to replicate the sun in this intense way that will definitely bring off heat, and all these data centers that are going to require so much energy. I know it has a huge influence on the Earth, but he's telling you something very different. He's telling you it's not natural. It's not. The moon is not natural. It's put there as a satellite to control things, and then they're putting more stuff to control things on this planet. It's like lockdown grid. They're locking down your minds, locking down your behaviors. We can go through it. They've got different ways elites are building this a synthetic system to outdo plasma, a natural plasma system. Internet, vaccines, satellites, space lasers shooting from space, central digital money controls money and where you can spend and what you can do. Starlink, Neuralink, religion, data centers, and we can keep going on for all the things that they're building as this synthetic structure. But he's saying anciently, long time ago, the moon was put there. That's what he's saying. He also, I think, at one point says there might be lizard people in the moon. I don't know if that's true. Everyone says this is wild and crazy conspiracy theory. It's just way at the top, but I'm presenting it to you as to why anyone with a brain would want to block out the sun, the source of all life, because the sun is plasma. It's made up of this plasma that Robert Temple talks about. You can hear it on that show with, let's see if I can find it and bring up Tucker. She talks about it, and I'll get to the point because Tucker's great. Tucker does chapters, and I'll show you her interview because she talks about the money system and how they're using that to control. But when you start looking at it from a different perspective, and I know you kind of want to go with the what they tell you on Wikipedia and stuff, but they're only going to tell you so much. They're not going to tell you the real occult shizzle dizzle that these fuckers are doing. They're not going to tell you the level of where they even get their information and where they get their ideas, because everything they do is about control and power, and you perceiving them as the top guy on this pyramid. These are all made up concepts. Time is a made up concept. All these things are created as to control people into a more rigid structure, and as we go along in human society on this planet, they're making more things to control us and put us in this like little rat maze, so to speak. So I've got the video here. I'm going to forward it. I'll share it in a second. I just want to go ahead and to the silly commercial, but I want to get to the part where she talks about Robert Temple. And you guys can go check out. I'll put the link. It's right on Tucker's page. He just did it recently. And she inspired me to look into this plasma stuff. And I inspire you guys to read that book by Robert Temple and kind of look into plasma and how the organic plasma kind of connects you to everything, gives you certain psychic powers, and can be healing, and has a lot of effects on humans and everywhere that is very important, and how everything that the elites are doing is kind of damaging plasma. It's controversial, but that's what we're all about. We're all about controversy here and looking at things, because she talks about, this is Catherine Fitz. She talks about the control grid. She talks about central banking, how you should use cash, digital currency, dark origins of black budget, all sorts of stuff. China. This is such an interesting. It's depressing a little bit because it gets into like how they want to kill people and everything. But we're gonna listen to her talk about how to defeat evil. That's where we're going to start. It's towards the end, and she talks about this. So let's share the screen. It's a good one to go into. And I just getting at this beneath the stuff that they describe to you on the internet. Here's our ABCs. We're building a power plant. We're doing different energies. We don't want coal. I can understand that as viable, but there's something else to this, because these guys are building underground bunkers everywhere. It's kind of creepy. And they're doing things that are not good for the planet. Vaccinating people, mind control. Apparently, the wireless stuff is going to be hooked to the vaccination, the mRNA stuff, to be able to control you, control your mind, and do strange things to you that is not about saving you from disease. So let's see here. We're going to start here. It's towards the end, but I encourage you to listen to this whole interview. She's pretty on the money. She predicted Iran. She's predicted a lot of the stuff that's happening right now quite a while ago. And she predicted all this central currency, digital currency. It is the ultimate control system. And you should avoid it and protest against it. See if we can get this out. There we go. Let's listen to this right now on Tucker.
So what kind of daily rituals make that work? So the first thing you do is you start with faith, because everybody's different. And so if you read Coming Clean, and I should say it's up on our website, it's public, anybody can get the PDF. Everybody's different. And so it's very important that you apply the mathematics of your time and money in a way which is energizing for you. It's got to be practical. But the first thing you can start to do, for example, and I'll talk money because that's my love, you can use cash, okay? And you can stop shopping. You can stop using the banks. So if you're banking with one of the big banks that created the great financial crisis, that's an opportunity for you to get your money out of those. But you can bank with a bank that didn't cause the good financial crisis and is helping your local community, be successful. So there are good banks and there are bad banks. You can shift your money into a good bank. You cannot shop with the companies that are basically, building the control grid, and you cannot finance them. If you look at most people's 401ks right now, they're very overconcentrated in 7 to 10 stocks that are basically making money by building the control grid. Now, many, many years ago, I was an investment advisor and I changed my company to Investment Screen.
What she says, we're literally investing in companies that are creating a system to control us and manipulate us and have us as slaves. And so that's why people are like, hey, your 401ks are up, but you're literally dooming yourself in a crazy future. That's literally what she's telling you.
And we were very quiet about it because I wanted to make sure that we could find plenty of companies that are not engaged in what I would call systemic organized crime or building the control grid. There are hundreds of them. There are hundreds of great companies that are just doing the work of the world and are not engaged in organized crime. You can invest in them. You can invest in local farmers to get your food. There are many different things you can do, but you can make sure your time and money is going to support the things that are good for you. One of the most important is health. So if you look at what bankrupts families in America, it's poor health, and that comes from poor nutrition, and from getting involved in the medical system in a way that's unhealthy for you.
Yeah.
And so when they want to do things like control the sun and make you reliant on their energy and blot out the sun, because I have a suspicion this is what they're doing. They're actually going to ruin your health, because the food grown from nuclear power is probably not going to be as nutritious as food grown from the sun and the rays of the sun. I can guarantee you that it'll be subpar. And who knows, that they could, for all that we know, I mean, they already put poison in our foods already and trying to kill us. We just seem to be adamant not to die. They're just like, how can we get rid of all these people? It's weird, because at one sense they want us as slave, but I think they're like, there's too many. We just need to get rid of some of them, a lot of them. How about a World War III? We've got our bunkers, it'll clear off. We got these nuclear power centers. We can get rid of some of them really quickly. And they're deeply afraid. They're deeply afraid that everyone will rise up and French revolutionize that they're deeply afraid of that kind of level. And that's why they create all these fake, color revolutions and stuff, to create chaos, to take over. They're not really authentic, because if they were, none of those people would be alive anymore. Okay. Come on, let's keep going.
What I used to find when I was investment advisors is people would tell me, who were millionaires and had a fortune, they would tell me, I can't afford biodynamic or organic food. I was like, you can't not afford that. You're crazy. If you have millions of dollars in your brokerage account and you are eating cheap food, you are making a terrible financial decision. Anyway, so there are 25 items in Coming Clean, and you can go through all of them, but they're all about whether it's your time, your money. One of them, of course, is getting good intelligence. So if they're watching Tucker Carlson, they already know what to do. But I can't tell you how many times I had clients who would watch the major networks and just, they would have a bad.
And that's why I'm saying, when you go to Wikipedia and stuff, they're not going to tell you what to do. They're going to tell you the narrative they want you to know. They're not going to tell you what they're really up to. There's like weird Nazi technology and crazy mind control and all this stuff going on here. They're not gonna tell you what they're really up to. Because they're evil. Evil just they love telling you lies and you believe it, and they're all the while they're like underneath everything. That's how these black cube demons work.
Bad map of the world and make terrible mistakes because they weren't getting good
I know
intelligence.
very smart, very successful people who have no idea what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Lots of people don't have a clue.
I've interrupted you like 100 times during this conversation, but there's so many interesting.
Oh.
Eve Online
that's fake
is a
space.
vast.
No, don't go to Eve Online.
Places to pause information and the means by which it's disseminated and we consume it. Like we're at a period of real openness right now because the old media have collapsed. How long can that last? Where you can say whatever you think on the internet and read other.
Okay. I think a lot of them, even Tucker, is part of the old system anyway. So they didn't. There's a part I want to let's pop up to this part because I think
So how does the average person respond to it?
With faith.
With faith.
Yeah.
Faith in.
Faith. So I believe, so I told you I was going to give you some homework. So here's my.
I welcome it.
Here's my favorite new book. It's called, we're just about to publish an amazing interview with the author. It's called A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple.
Okay.
And it's about plasma. Our annual wrap up is, and we'll send you a copy, is on plasma.
I'm writing it down.
Okay. Now, 99% of the universe is made up of plasma. And if you go back
I'll confess I have no idea what plasma is.
Don't ask me to explain it.
Well, it's about 90% of the universe.
99%.
99% of the universe. Excuse-
we already explained it here. You can check out the video that I explained it with. I believe it's in the notes, but it's it's literally, according to this man, the cornerstone of everything in the universe.
And if you go back and listen to people like David Bohm, the great physicist, they would sort of intimate this. But Temple, Dr. Robert Temple, has now written a book that really goes through all the science of it. And what Temple says is that plasma is alive and intelligent. Okay, which brings all new meaning to the notion of he lives. What he's saying is the universe is alive and intelligent. Now, throughout my history, and it's
I feel that, don't you?
It is true. I'm sure it's true. It's yeah. The universe is alive. The universe is intelligent. You know, whether it's the plants, the animals, the people.
Yes.
We share intelligence, and it's not through our brain. It's through our whole body, through our energy, everything. So anyway, but the new science of heaven is really about plasma and how it's alive and intelligent. Now, what I'm going to tell you, I don't care how much programmable money you have, how many biometrics you have, how many digital IDs you have, how many drones. You know, DOD is going to buy 1 million drones a year. How many drones you have flying overhead? I don't care. There's no way you can control the entire universe. Do you know what I mean? And if you understand what Temple and Bohm and these guys are saying about how the universe works, it's out of control. Now, what you can do is you can interact with it with love and intention and integrity, you know, but it's out of control. And I absolutely believe that. And that's why I think this whole digital control model is going to fail. I just want to make sure.
You're just describing the Tower of Babel. You're describing like the limits of human power. And foresight.
And technology. It just, if you understand life, the whole thing is nuts. Now, if you look at the leadership, I can absolutely, because they're hyper-materialists.
I'll just pause it there. The whole thing is nuts. That's why I keep saying these fake suns, blotting out the sun. This is all control mechanisms. I think they know plasma exists. And if they don't, she's about to tell you, it's because they're materialists. They're actually really stupid and ignorant, and they don't understand the connectivity of everywhere. They're trying to control everything on this little globe here, and the whole universe, everywhere, is filled with this plasma. That's like an organic living structure that we're connected to. And that I think they're like, hey, we're just going to create a synthetic version and control everything. And they're fooling themselves. That's why she says it's all going to fail eventually. It doesn't work, but we know they're going to try, and we know they're going to do some crazy shit while they're trying.
I can absolutely believe that they would think they can control it. And I can understand as risk managers why you might want to.
What's a hypermaterialist?
A hypermaterialist is somebody. So if you and I were going to make a taxonomy of all knowledge in our world, there is knowledge that relates to things that we can see. So this table or this wall or this painting, it's real. We can see it. It's concrete. Okay. So there's a material world, but then there's a whole world that's invisible, either because it's spiritual or it may be material, but it's like the Wi-Fi in the room. We can't see it. So there's a whole part of our reality, whether it's what I call the morphogenic field, so shared intelligence or your energetic body or mind.
And remember, this is what the CIA has been testing for decades. This is why they had psychics. This is why they got witchcraft people and Satanists and remote viewers. They know this is there. And they're trying to control and mimic it. And they're trying to pull our minds away from that to the material. Because it's not just an organic living structure. You can access information. You can figure out things. You can, be more harmonious. All of these things that I described to you that they're creating are ways to distract you and pull you away. And he mentions the Tower of Babel, that it falls because we climb too high. She's convinced that's what's going to happen. I don't know for sure if that's what's going to happen. But it is a lot of crazy going on here. And that's why I'm encouraging you guys, if you want some homework, either to check out interviews with Robert Temple on this complex dusty plasma thing, or go get the actual book that she referenced. I'll tell you the name of it again. I've got it right on my playlists. After I finish David Icke's book, I'm going to get into it. It is A New Science of Heaven. New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple. So you can check that out. It is just insane, all of these things that they're creating as diversions. Now, I think they do have a religious element to themselves, because that's why they do all these sick rituals and dark stuff. And that's a really bad vibration. It's like you don't want to go there, because you'll be disconnected from the source of everything in life. It especially on your own kind. And I don't know, maybe these people are possessed. Maybe some other things coming in like a parasite and possessing these elites. I have no idea. But there's something really sadistic and wrong with them, that they think God is like this controlling thing that watches with one eye. It's Sauron, when it's really just all this plasma and creative sources and connectivity in the universe. They've got it all wrong. And they're literally leading our minds for thousands of years into this weird pyramid, crazy scheme, the biggest pyramid scheme ever going. We'll finish this video off and then we'll tie it up here. But I encourage you to watch this video, and I encourage you to read this book, because I think it's going to give you a better perception on how the universe is actually arranged, and that these elite people that are doing this stuff and blocking out the sun and PDF files and kings and all this stuff, they're fucking nuts. And they're going to the total opposite of how things really are. And it's not some god that these three Abrahamic religions are wacko.
Energetic body or or the Wi-Fi in the room, whether it's material or spiritual, there's a whole world that's invisible. And what you see in the American culture in my lifetime is people become more and more focused on what they can see that's material. The only invisible thing they relate to is money. Money is an invisible, finance is an invisible.
So money is their god.
Only a hyper-materialist could allow money to become their god, because if you understand...
But if it's the only invisible thing you believe in,
right,
it's your god.
But they don't know. They literally don't know how intelligence works and how power works in the universe. They are completely ignorant of the real power lines.
That's why they present things like a pyramid with this all-seeing eye at top. That's why they do that. That is the psychopath. We got Road Trip right here saying sadistic psychopaths. It's a psychopathic way of looking at things. It's not it's a hierarchy that you probably, and they don't even want you to climb the hierarchy really much anymore. They want it to be like a set in stone, like you're right here and that's all you are. You're a slave. That's kind of what they really like. But they don't understand the real nature of the universe. They only understand it this way. They're obsessed with materialism. They want us to be obsessed with materialism and in the material world. So we're not connecting to this plasma. And if we do connect to something, they want to make sure it's their little synthetic plasma, their synthetic tech world only. That's it. That's all you got. That's why the CIA and all these people have been researching this and doing MK Ultra experiments and all this stuff because they want you to get away from this. Let's finish this little, if I can get it. Oops. Well, I
Imagine
messed
being
that one
able to
up.
build.
We're going to end it there. I accidentally clicked the wrong button. But check out that interview with her and Tucker. It's really fascinating. It's really interesting. My system slowed down today. It's not moving fast. But the other thing that I want to finish this whole show off with saying about these elites that rule thing is like a giant cult. And in giant cults, you'll see like they're trying to control things very much in very different ways. The banking system is going to be a big one. And in that interview, like that, what they want is the banks want to be able to not just do monetary policies within their banks. They want fiscal. They want control of the fiscal. And with central currency, they will control the fiscal rules. That means they'll make the rules on taxes. They'll take the taxes right out of your account. They'll make all the rules on what money goes where or where what goes to what country. And they'll bypass any kind of legislation. Get rid of it altogether, get rid of the Constitution, get rid of your 1A, your 2A. They'll get rid of all that stuff. That's what the banks are doing right now. That's why it's important not to do this central currency stuff, and hopefully it collapses. But the thing that with this central currency, digital currency and stuff that they want to do is they want to tie everyone in the system so that strong people who resist, they can kick them out of the system, maybe, and get rid of them. They want weak people. They want weak slave people. That's typical cult behavior. Jim Jones, remember we talked about this on the other show. Jim Jones regularly tested his followers to see who the weak ones were. So he'd do those white knights, test them with say it's poison Kool-Aid or drink, but it wasn't. And so the strong ones would freak out and leave. The weak ones would stay. This system wants weak people. They do not want strong, intelligent people. I don't know how they're going to do it all. Because there's so many people who are trying to trade with farms and do their own stuff and do cash, do something that's not as controllable. And for those of you who love Donald Trump, I hate to tell you, he's in on the system. He wants to bring this control system in. He's a puppet. Hell, he might not even be real. He could be a fucking NPC. He could be a clone for all we know. We don't know what they really do behind the scenes because they'll never tell us. And so their whole thing of kicking people off the system, it's to get rid of strong people who oppose them and give you real information. So if you start seeing people getting kicked out of their banking system, that's what they're doing. It's typical cult behavior, and we are in a giant cult on this planet that's been controlled by these Saturn worshippers, Sabbatians. There's all different kind of names, but they want the ultimate control system. And Catherine Fitz thinks they're going to fail. It's going to collapse. Hopefully they will. I don't know how you feel about Tucker. I mean, they could all be part of it. I don't know. But check out that book by Robert Temple. And remember, the royals are lying. They're covering up. It's all propaganda. They're all part of this creepy, crazy pyramid scheme matrix to control you into continuing to worship them. And that's not how the whole universe really is organized. It is much more complex, yet simple. Check out the Dusty Plaza. Now, I might stream on Wednesday night if I have time. Maybe we'll talk about Iran and other things, but I hope you guys enjoyed this show. Do not forget to give it a thumbs up. That really helps it show up on the YouTube algorithm. And hell, that's controlled. I know that's controlled. I'm not going to be running a Tucker Carlson or a Candace, and she's doing a whole crazy series about what's her name there. I don't even, at this point, I don't even know if I care who whacked Charlie Kirk anymore. I already know who did it. I don't know what happened. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm crazy. just crazy drama stuff. I don't know. I don't think we have any more videos to cover. So that's pretty much it for the show today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Just remember that Sundays at 5 p.m. I'll be here next week. I'll decide. I'm going to try to get a couple of guests in, message some people. I want to talk about some different things once in a while, not just with me. My voice is collapsing right now. But yeah, all this stuff is crazy. If it seems crazy what they're doing, it's because it is crazy, because it's almost like denying the reality of the whole entire universe, and they can't control it. Cough, cough, Mossad, cough, cough. And there's no left and right. There's no liberal versus, there's no democracy. It's all just a fucking clusterfuck, and you can control it. And it is, I think it's tied to this plasma stuff. I'm going to be researching. Maybe we'll do a specific show on plasma. And I don't mean the blood plasma, but clearly the elites like some blood plasma. They're already into that one. They want our blood because that's another life force that's organic. So maybe they are tied. Maybe there's plasma in the plasma. All right, you guys, remember the website is theclusterfuck.com, and I'm going to be here possibly, if I do a Wednesday, it's probably going to be like 7 p.m. Eastern, around there if I do a quick show. And then we'll see you next Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Clusterfuck, and I'm going to tune out. Thank you so much. Cheerios, guys.